The storm arrives without warning. Wind tears across the mountain. Visibility vanishes, and the ground beneath your feet becomes impossible to read. Somewhere above, ice breaks loose. Down below, there is nothing but distance. Alaska is different from anywhere else on Earth. Here, mountains don't just test strength or skill, they test survival. Experienced climbers have vanished in clear weather. Rescue teams have turned back because reaching the mountain was more dangerous than leaving people behind. Some of these peaks are not the tallest, others are not even the most famous, but each of them has a reputation earned through failure, loss, and unpredictability. On these mountains, preparation does not guarantee safety, and turning back is often the only decision that saves a life. In Alaska, danger comes from isolation as much as terrain. Weather changes instantly. Glaciers hide deep crevices, and help is often too far away to matter. Many mountains here have no fixed routes, no reliable rescue access, and no margin for error. Even small mistakes can become fatal long before anyone knows something went wrong. That combination is what makes Alaska unforgiving. These are the 5 most dangerous mountains in Alaska. Number 5. Mount Sanford. Mount Sanford rises to over 16,200 feet in eastern Alaska, making it one of the tallest volcanoes in the United States. At first glance, it appears less threatening than many other Alaskan giants. Its slopes are broad, its profile is smooth, and from a distance it looks almost approachable. That appearance is exactly what makes Mount Sanford dangerous. The mountain sits inside the Wrangell Volcanic Field, an area dominated by glaciers, volcanic rock, and long stretches of isolated wilderness. There are no roads anywhere near Mount Sanford. Reaching it requires specialized aircraft, long glacier travel, and complete self-sufficiency. Once an expedition commits to the approach, there are few options for retreat. Sanford's greatest threat is not technical climbing difficulty, but scale and exposure. The mountain is massive, and its routes involve long, exhausting ascents across open glacial terrain. Weather systems move quickly through the region, and storms can develop without warning. Strong winds, heavy snowfall, and sudden whiteouts are common, even during the summer climbing season. The volcanic nature of Mount Sanford adds another layer of risk. While it is not currently erupting, its slopes are composed of loose volcanic material covered by ice. This creates unstable conditions where rockfall and icefall can occur unexpectedly. Crevices are widespread, and many are hidden beneath thin snow bridges that can collapse under weight. One of the most dangerous aspects of Mount Sanford is the false sense of security it gives climbers. Unlike sharply vertical peaks, Sanford's terrain appears gradual, but the distance involved is extreme. Climbers can spend days exposed on the mountain with limited shelter, increasing the risk of exhaustion, frostbite, and altitude-related illness. Rescue on Mount Sanford is extremely limited. Aircraft often cannot land due to weather, and ground rescues are slow and dangerous. In emergencies, climbers may be forced to self-rescue over long distances. Several serious incidents have occurred where climbers were stranded for days waiting for conditions to improve. Mount Sanford is not the deadliest mountain in Alaska, but it is one of the most deceptive. It punishes underestimation. Many who attempt it are forced to turn back, not because the summit is unreachable, but because the mountain demands more endurance and resilience than expected. Sanford earns its place on this list because it reminds climbers that in Alaska, danger does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks calm, quiet, and manageable, right up until it isn't. Number 4. Mount Blackburn. Mount Blackburn rises to approximately 16,390 feet and is the highest peak in the Wrangell Mountains. Despite being taller than many better-known Alaskan peaks, Mount Blackburn receives very little attention. That lack of attention is part of what makes it dangerous. The mountain sits deep inside Wrangell St. Elias National Park, one of the largest and most remote protected areas in the world. There are no roads leading anywhere near the mountain. Approaches typically require glacial landings by small aircraft, followed by long and demanding travel across ice fields. Once on the mountain, retreat is difficult and often as dangerous as continuing upward. Mount Blackburn is known for its extreme weather. Storm systems moving across the Wrangell Mountains can stall for days, dumping heavy snow and producing violent winds. Climbers have reported being pinned down for extended periods, unable to move while conditions deteriorate around them. Whiteouts are common, and navigation becomes extremely difficult without clear reference points. The mountain's glacial terrain presents constant hazards. Crevasses are deep and widespread, often concealed by fresh snowfall. Ice falls and avalanche zones shift unpredictably, changing from season to season. Routes that appear safe from a distance may become impassable upon closer inspection. One of the most serious dangers on Mount Blackburn is exposure. Climbers are often forced to spend long periods at high altitude, increasing the risk of altitude sickness, frostbite, and exhaustion. The sheer scale of the mountain means that progress is slow, and storms can trap climbers far from any safe descent route. Rescue options are extremely limited. Weather frequently grounds aircraft, sometimes for days at a time. In many cases, climbers must rely entirely on their own ability to survive until conditions improve. Several expeditions have been forced to abandon equipment and retreat under dangerous circumstances just to escape the mountain. Mount Blackburn has claimed lives, but many incidents go unrecorded due to the remoteness of the region. What is clear is that the mountain has a reputation among experienced climbers as one of the most unforgiving in Alaska. It does not offer quick victories or easy margins. Blackburn earns its place on this list not because it is flashy or famous, but because it combines height, isolation, and brutal weather into a challenge that few are willing to face, and even fewer are prepared to survive. Number 3. Mount Foraker. Mount Foraker rises to approximately 17,400 feet and stands just southwest of Denali, inside Denali National Park. Overshadowed by North America's tallest mountain, Foraker is often overlooked by the public. Among climbers, however, it carries a very different reputation. Many consider Mount Foraker to be more dangerous than Denali itself. At first glance, Foraker appears deceptively calm. Its ridges are long and sweeping, and its profile lacks the dramatic vertical faces seen on other peaks. But this calm exterior hides one of the most hostile climbing environments in Alaska. The mountain's location places it directly in the path of some of the most violent weather systems in the Alaska Range. Storms frequently wrap around Denali and slam into Foraker with full force. Winds can reach extreme speeds, and temperatures regularly drop to life-threatening levels. These conditions often arrive suddenly, leaving climbers trapped high on the mountain with no safe descent. One of Foraker's greatest dangers is its length. Routes are long and committing, requiring days of exposure at high altitude. Climbers must carry heavy loads across glaciers, navigate steep ice slopes, and establish multiple camps along narrow ridgelines. Retreat becomes increasingly difficult the higher a team climbs. Turning back late can be just as dangerous as continuing upward. Crevasses on Foraker are massive and unpredictable. Snow bridges collapse without warning, and ice falls shift constantly. Unlike Denali, which has established routes and a degree of seasonal infrastructure, Foraker offers no such support. There are no fixed lines, no ranger stations, and no consistent rescue presence. Fatalities on Mount Foraker are relatively few compared to Denali, but this statistic is misleading. Far fewer people attempt Foraker, and many expeditions never return close enough to civilization for incidents to be widely reported. Several climbers have disappeared during storms, with no clear explanation of what went wrong. What makes Foraker especially dangerous is psychological pressure. Climbers can see Denali nearby, often in clear weather, creating a false sense of proximity to safety. In reality, Foraker is just as isolated, just as cold, and often more exposed. The mental strain of long days, exhaustion, and uncertainty has led to critical decision-making errors. Mount Foraker earns its place as the third most dangerous mountain in Alaska because it quietly destroys confidence. It doesn't intimidate with obvious violence. Instead, it wears climbers down, physically and mentally, until small mistakes become fatal. Number 2. Mount St. Elias. Mount St. Elias rises to more than 18,000 feet and is the second highest mountain in both the United States and Canada. What makes it uniquely dangerous is not just its height, but how violently it rises from the sea. Few mountains on Earth gain elevation so quickly over such a short horizontal distance. That vertical relief creates one of the most hostile climbing environments in North America. St. Elias sits directly in the path of powerful Pacific storm systems. Moist air from the ocean slams into the mountain and rises rapidly, producing extreme snowfall, relentless wind, and some of the worst weather conditions climbers face anywhere in Alaska. Storms can last for days or even weeks, burying routes and trapping teams high on exposed ridges. The mountain's terrain is dominated by heavily creviced glaciers and unstable ice faces. Ice falls shift constantly and avalanches are common. Snow conditions change rapidly due to temperature swings caused by the mountain's proximity to sea level. A slope that appears stable in the morning can become lethal by afternoon. Access to Mount St. Elias is exceptionally difficult. Approaches typically involve remote glacier landings followed by long, committing ascents across dangerous terrain. Once climbers move higher, retreat becomes increasingly complex. Weather frequently grounds aircraft, making evacuation impossible even in emergencies. In some cases, climbers have been forced to wait days for rescue, if rescue comes at all. Mount St. Elias has a long and deadly history. Early attempts in the late 19th and early 20th centuries ended in failure, injury, and death. Even modern expeditions equipped with advanced gear have suffered serious accidents. The combination of altitude, weather, and isolation leaves little room for error. One of the most dangerous aspects of St. Elias is exhaustion. Climbers face long carries, heavy loads, and sustained exposure to extreme conditions. Fatigue builds slowly but relentlessly, increasing the likelihood of poor decisions. Many accidents occur not during technical climbing, but during descent, when climbers are physically and mentally depleted. Despite its reputation, Mount St. Elias continues to attract elite climbers. Its massive scale and historical significance make it a coveted objective, but the mountain does not reward ambition easily. Many teams turn back after weeks of effort, defeated by weather rather than terrain. Mount St. Elias earns its place as the second most dangerous mountain in Alaska because it combines every major hazard into one place: altitude, isolation, unstable ice, and brutal weather. It is a mountain that tests not just skill, but endurance, patience, and the ability to survive prolonged uncertainty. Number 1. Denali. Denali rises to 20,310 feet, making it the highest mountain in North America. It is also the most dangerous mountain in Alaska, not because it is unclimbable, but because it exposes human limits more brutally than any other peak in the region. Denali does not rely on mystery or isolation alone. Its danger is well documented, repeatedly experienced, and often underestimated. Despite its fame, Denali kills, and it kills experienced climbers. What makes Denali uniquely dangerous is how it combines altitude, weather, and physiological stress. Although it is lower than the world's tallest mountains, Denali's latitude places it deep in the subarctic. The air at its summit is thinner than on much higher peaks elsewhere on Earth. Climbers experience extreme altitude effects much earlier than expected, often before they realize something is wrong. Weather on Denali is among the most violent recorded on any mountain. Winds regularly exceed hurricane force. Temperatures can drop below -40 degrees Celsius, with wind chill pushing conditions beyond what the human body can survive. Storms can appear suddenly and trap climbers high on the mountain for days. In those conditions, movement becomes impossible and shelter fragile. Denali's terrain amplifies every mistake. Glaciers are massive and filled with deep, hidden crevasses. Snow bridges collapse without warning. Avalanches are common, especially during periods of heavy snowfall. Falls at high altitude are often unrecoverable. Rescue operations, while more organized here than on other Alaskan peaks, are still limited by weather and visibility. One of Denali's greatest dangers is time. Climbs often take weeks, not days. Climbers must carry heavy loads between camps repeatedly, increasing fatigue and exposure. The longer someone stays on the mountain, the higher the risk of frostbite, altitude sickness, and mental exhaustion. Many fatalities occur during descent, when climbers are weakened and decision-making is impaired. Denali has a long history of fatal accidents. Climbers have died from falls, avalanches, exposure, altitude-related illness, and sudden storms. In some cases, bodies have never been recovered, preserved instead by the cold and ice. The mountain does not discriminate between beginners and experts. Experience reduces risk, but it does not eliminate it. What makes Denali particularly dangerous is accessibility. Because it is well known and technically possible to climb via established routes, many climbers believe it is manageable. That belief has cost lives. Permits and preparation do not guarantee safety. On Denali, success is always conditional. Denali earns its place as the most dangerous mountain in Alaska not because it is the hardest to climb, but because it consistently overwhelms human limits. It offers no mercy to overconfidence, impatience, or miscalculation. Every year it reminds climbers that survival is never promised, no matter how prepared they think they are. The mountains on this list are dangerous for different reasons. Some deceive with gentle slopes. Others punish with storms, ice, and isolation. But what unites them is the same truth. In Alaska, nature always decides the outcome. These mountains are not villains, and they do not seek victims. They simply exist under conditions that do not tolerate mistakes. Every successful climb is temporary, every summit is borrowed, and every descent is earned. In a world where most places feel mapped, managed, and controlled, Alaska's mountains remain indifferent to human ambition. They remind us that survival is not guaranteed by technology, experience, or confidence. It is granted moment by moment. And perhaps that is why these mountains continue to draw people in, not to conquer them, but to understand how small the margin between survival and silence truly is.